Hey everyone, welcome to Political Radar Echo, 30 minutes of political talk about current topics with panelists from a variety of viewpoints. I'm your host, Cassandra, and this is episode 5.
This is Political Radar Echo with Cassandra, where we cover many political issues affecting our country with a panel of guests from many viewpoints.
Our panelists today are Jacob Immel and Bill Meindl. Thanks, guys, so much for coming on.
Hi, Cassandra. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, Jacob, could you give us a brief intro? Who are you?
Sure. I'm Jacob Immel, a recent graduate of UW Green Bay, political science, public administration. Graduated a long time ago, about a week ago now, so just fresh out of college. Currently, I work in real estate agent, and I'm also a Brown County Commissioner, member of the Planning Commission.
Awesome. And Bill?
I write for a website called Green Bay Development News, which is part of a larger website called Skyscraper City, and it's devoted to economic development in Green Bay and Brown County. And prior to that, in past worlds, I've been a newspaper reporter and a historic preservation planner and a number of other things. But now in my retirement, I go to a lot of city and county meetings and cover local government.
Yeah, and that's actually how I met Bill, is at every single meeting that I've ever been to, I think, which is really cool. And Jacob reached out to me and said he wanted to be on the show and he wanted to talk about some economic development, community development, maybe some education stuff. And I thought, who better to be part of that conversation than Bill, who is involved in just about everything and reports on just about everything. So, Jacob, do you want to get started? We were talking on Facebook Live about getting people involved, young people involved, and the political climate today, everywhere from local to national, can be so toxic and can be really scary to jump into. And you had some really great thoughts. So I want to let you talk a little bit about that and pick up where we left off on that.
Well, letting me have the microphone is that's a little dangerous. Letting me have just free reign to talk. So you might have to rein me in a little. Just kidding.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. So we kind of touched a little bit about trying to get young people in. You know, when we're looking at innovation in government, I think younger people, college graduates, college students, just in general, I think if you look to some business leaders, if you look to like Facebook or something, you know, all the times we're on social media, marketing, things like that, we're coming up with a lot of ingenious, ways to do business and to work in nonprofits and things. And I think trying to capture some of that enthusiasm and innovation and try to apply that to getting involved in government and just involved in your community in general, I think is what is needed, and I think is what young leaders can bring to Green Bay, especially that innovation in government.
How do we get people involved? Like it seems really scary to jump into it. What steps would you recommend to people, either of you? What steps would you recommend to people who are interested in getting involved in politics, but maybe look at what's happened nationally and are a little bit afraid? Because it looks pretty scary.
Well, one thing is, I always say, is just simply pay attention to what's going on. I mean, there is coverage of what's happening in local government, for example, certainly at the national and state level as well. Pay attention to local government and politics. Be informed, be aware, know what's going on, and if you have the time and the effort there, participate in what's happening as well. But there's just looking at the local environment here, there is so much going on, so many interesting things in politics and government. And the community is moving forward, and you can either be a part of that and you can pay attention to it, or you can be on the sidelines and not being part of it. So I just think there's a lot going on. It's easy to get involved. They're always looking for people who are interested, and the issues are there at the local level as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it's kind of an issue of recruitment. I think, like, if you look at a lot of tech companies, let's say like Silicon Valley or something, when a computer science major, marketing major gets out of college, these companies heavily recruit them. They want the innovation, like we were just kind of talking about. And I think that government, nonprofits, civic organizations, things like that, need to kind of do a better job, I think, of recruiting. So whether that's like social media, trying to show, because if you're a younger graduate, I was just reading an article, I think it might have been in Forbes, how there's actual less majors in like public service, so public administration, political science. And I think we kind of need to do a better job of, your you're right out of college, you have this degree, there's a lot of options, but how do we kind of try to entice, I guess, these younger graduates to do more public service oriented jobs, whether that be in government, healthcare, or nonprofits?
It's fascinating to me that you're a recent college graduate and you're a commissioner for our local county, correct?
Yeah, that was something I was appointed to by the mayor and the city council a few months back. So I'm really still honored to have that opportunity.
It's really cool. So how did you pursue that opportunity?
Sure. So I owe a lot of that to Celestine Jeffries, who's the, most of you probably know, the chief of staff to Mayor Schmidt. She's awesome, and she was a good mentor to me last summer. So the summer before I graduated, I was an intern in the city hall for the mayor's chief of staff. So I was Celestine's intern, and we really connected and really just kind of developed a relationship over the months. And I do view her as a mentor, and I still talk with her on occasion. And she kind of brought up some ways to get involved, and she mentioned that they're looking for people to sit on committees and commissions, and if I was interested, give some more thought to it. And I did, and I really was intrigued in how I could serve in a different way and how I could serve on that commission.
So is that a volunteer position?
Yeah, so it's volunteer, and what's intriguing is some people look to maybe the federal level and some issues that really rile people up. Let's say healthcare or more social issues. Those maybe could be deemed for lack of a better term, the sexier issues. But some of the things that we deal with on the commission, like very local issues, municipality things, zoning. That might not be viewed as the more enticing issues, I suppose, with a lot of people, but, just so very important. I think it's just good to have people from all age levels, all intellects, all occupations really getting involved, because those issues are the ones that really affect you the most, and sometimes people don't maybe realize that or want to realize that. So,
yeah, and Bill, you cover a lot of those issues. You go to all the meetings, you go and cover the city where we are here in Green Bay, and you cover the county as well. In fact, we are on a time crunch for this episode because Bill has 2 meetings that he needs to get to that he can report on. So what are your thoughts on getting people involved, as Jacob was talking about? Do you see a lot of people? Do you see mostly retired people, or do you see young people getting more excited about getting involved at that level?
Sometimes what I tend to see at the local level is people getting more involved come election time. Election for city council, election for county board, election for mayor, election for county executive. Mm-hmm. Then you see the participation levels start to pick up a little, and you might see more commentary on social media, more people attending meetings. And then the challenge is sustainability, is to keeping that interest going between the elections over the years as time goes on. In Green Bay, there was a lot of participation and interest developed around the Walmart issue, which happened a few years ago, and there was a local group called
Be Local.
Be Local.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a tremendous way to generate enthusiasm, to get people organized, and they accomplished a lot, and that happened just around one particular issue, the Walmart issue. So I think the challenge is to keep people involved in between the big issues, in between the big elections, and to keep it ongoing from year to year, because there's opportunities there. You look at the Green Bay City Council right now, you look at the Brown County Board, and that's not a representative sample of the population of Green Bay or Brown County.
Yeah.
It tends to sway in certain directions, if you will. And I think if there could be more interest and participation from all types of people, there would be opportunities to get elected and to be involved in local government.
Yeah. Jacob?
Yeah, Bill, I agree with that, and I like to jot a lot of notes. So jotting down some notes here, kind of taking what you were talking about, kind of like a concept of taking your passion or your activism and actually putting it into practice, because, we all can be warriors on social media, which I think is important. It's a healthy discussion, First Amendment discussion, but I think you also have to put it into practice. So going off of recent presidential elections, and I think it was maybe February, we had a large group of activists from UW Green Bay who I think were protesting the travel ban. I think they went down on the city deck and they held signs, and I think regardless of your politics and how you view that, I think it's just awesome to see that activism and kind of going off a little bit of, passion into practice, looking at, again, maybe being on this theme of younger people in politics. You look at the mayor of Manitowoc, Justin Nichols. He was elected when he was 22. If you look at my good friend Vanya Kepke, he ran for alderman, very involved in the community. And then you look at Sheboygan, which is actually a shameless plug here in my hometown. You have some younger people, just recent college graduates as well. You have Ryan Sorensen, who was just elected to city council, and Kyle Welton was just elected to the school board. So I think that, just taking this passion, this activism, whether it surrounds a big election or not, just kind of taking that and putting it into practice is key.
I remember when Justin Nichols was elected, and that was because he's just a little bit younger than me. And I remember thinking, wow, maybe, yeah, he did it. And that kind of pushed me to get a little more involved locally, but it was the Be Local thing that really pushed me more into local politics. Yeah. And on a broad spectrum, we're talking about the city that we live in and the county we live in, but I think this can apply really to anyone watching from any part of the country. I think it's important that sometimes we get so upset about those, as you said, the sexier issues, the social issues and stuff, and we get so entrenched in that, and we forget about working on maybe the park that's across the street from us, or fixing the roads, or all of those things that impact us on a daily basis. And I've told people when people were upset about the election and everything, or they were happy about the election, no matter how you felt about the presidential election, the way you make a difference is by working in your community.
And whether the elections go in your favor or not, continue to show up, continue to vote. Presidential elections tend to be higher turnout, but some of the elections in between tend to be very low turnout. Right. And then anything can happen and anybody can get elected. And I would just strongly advise people to vote, and not only vote at the big elections, but the primaries and the smaller elections in between. Sometimes those are just as important, if not more important, than the big presidential elections.
Absolutely.
And I think going off that a little bit too, not just for politics, but just whatever issue that you're passionate about, this idea of volunteerism and community service. Green Bay just has dozens upon dozens of great nonprofits that are really, progressive, really active in the community. And I think, like let's say Golden House, Freedom House, Salvation Army, anything like that, just volunteer. Like if you're passionate about something, even if you're passionate about animals and wildlife, like the Wildlife Sanctuary, Humane Society.
Yeah, I'm a volunteer at the Humane Society.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's just, for people that say, oh, my voice doesn't matter, how can I get involved? Or I don't want to get involved, maybe there's not enough opportunities. Well, my goodness, like there's countless opportunities in this community. Like, you might have to be a little proactive, but if you seek out opportunities, there are plenty available.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I agree. There's a one group that really inspires me called the Love Life Ministry, I believe, and what I think is really cool is they're a pro-life organization, but what they do is instead of sitting outside picketing, they collect diapers for children in need and formula and
Wonderful.
Clothes and things like that. And I just think that's the coolest thing, that instead of sitting on the sidelines, they're being proactive and they're helping the people. If they want people to have those babies, and I'm touching on a very touchy subject here, but like I said, one of those sexier subjects.
Yeah, well.
But
Quote,
what
unquote.
I see is locally, I see people who are doing something really cool and seeing a need and filling it.
Yes.
And helping in that.
And I think kind of going off of that too, not really touching on what you just talked about, the pro-choice, pro-life debate, because
Right.
I don't want to step in
No,
that.
I don't want to either. It was just one that came to mind that I see people
But going
filling
off of
a
that,
need.
and I think it's also, but going off of that, like I think sometimes people, when you feel very passionate about an issue and somebody has the opposite, like I've seen people lose friends and things over the election. Like, I think that there are things that divide us, but I think those issues that divide us are just so loud and so boisterous that if we actually try to find common ground, most likely we probably agree on more issues than we disagree on. And that maybe sounds political and cliche, but I would encourage to find somebody or seek out somebody that has the complete dead opposite opinion of you. And I'm not saying you're going to change your mind. You're probably not going to change the other person's mind either. But I think you might find a little more common ground than you think, and maybe you don't hate the person after this conversation. So I think it's tough, but I think conversations like that we need a little bit more.
Green Bay and Brown County obviously are not Chicago, they're not Milwaukee, they're not even a Madison, but they're big enough that there's lots of organizations, lots of service groups, lots of initiatives. There's plenty of activities all around town if you go and look for them. So if you're interested in participating, if you're interested in being involved, the activities are there, and most of them are just looking for people to become involved.
Right.
So you don't have to be in the big city to find things to do.
It's almost a really fun size for we're a fun size city. We're a fun size city because we're big and we have cool things here. But it's small enough that we can get involved. We can go to those city council meetings. We
can make a difference.
Yeah, and it's as I've gotten more involved, I'm Facebook friends with many of the aldermen, and it's just really cool being able to interact with them, even if I disagree with them. I'm sure some of them are watching going, oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. But I do like having that open engagement and being able to chat with them. And I think in a bigger city, you kind of lose that. You're not able to have that one-on-one connection with your aldermen or your Brown County supervisors or commissioners or, anything like that. And then it also presents the opportunity for someone like you, Bill, to be an independent reporter and to provide that information and to go to all the meetings and stuff. In a bigger city, that may be a little bit harder of a job.
Absolutely. There's a certain intimacy, if you will, in a community this size that you might not find in a big metropolitan area. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you're talking about,
right.
What you're getting at.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Thank you for fixing my words for me.
And I think it's also important that, talking about going to these events, going to these things like this, connecting with your alderman, I think it's really important to, and I know some are easier to contact than others, but I think this idea of sometimes these elected officials are shoved away in a box or that they're so different from us that we can't have conversations. I think even if it may be challenging, I think demanding representation of our representatives is important. I think going, whether it be reaching out to their offices or maybe seeing them downtown in a more local level or going to these city council meetings, I think expressing your voice, expressing your opinion, and also, demanding that they listen. I guess it's hard if they listen. Are they going to do anything about it? But still, I think all representatives need to be held accountable to who elected them.
Yeah. I'm curious from both of you, do you think social media has helped, or do you think it hurts the local involvement? And sometimes I look at social media and I see how divisive it can be over, especially national issues, during presidential election, after the presidential election. Doesn't matter who you voted for in that. I just see it as being so contentious. How can we turn it around and make it be less negative and turn it into a positive, I guess? It
looks to me like social media, if I were to say just off the top of my head, it has a split personality. There's a serious, helpful, informative side to social media that is productive and can contribute and help, but then there's also kind of a destructive side to it as well, too. It can misshape, it can misinform, it can lead in the wrong direction, it can propagandize. And for the viewer, for the participant, there has to be kind of an ability, if you will, to be able to separate one from the other. And that's not always an easy thing to do, because if you read it, some people think, well, if you read it, it must be true.
Right.
That obviously is not the case always.
Yeah.
So you have to be very, in my opinion, I'm not an expert on it, but very careful with social media.
I agree. The sources thing, like looking at what source you use and everything, really, I've thought a lot more about this since I've taken this job and looking at where am I getting my information and who's putting it out there. And just because it's on the internet, it doesn't make it true.
Exactly.
And I think also in this era where some more than others are fixated on this concept of fake news, like I think it's a little overblown on both sides, but I think that it's really more, like we were talking about, more imperative than ever to know where you're getting your sources from. And I think if you're a conservative, you're a liberal, I think sometimes you also need to go out of your comfort zone, because if you're a conservative, you could watch Fox News till the cows come home and not hear necessarily a dissenting opinion, and I think vice versa for someone who's on the liberal side of the spectrum. So I also kind of encourage to go out of your comfort zone a little bit and look at all different types of news, especially independent, nonpartisan, which sometimes is hard to find. But quickly, I know we're pressed for time, but there's a great book. It's called Citizenville. It was written a few years ago by Gavin Newsom, who's the Lieutenant Governor of California, actually a young, innovative guy. But he talks about how we can use government, or we can use social media and stuff, not just for politics, but for government. So, we like to spread our voice and everything when there's a campaign, but when the campaign's done, we kind of maybe, like we mentioned, lose enthusiasm, or we don't want to get as involved. But I think using that transparency of social media and reaching out to your elected representatives, I think really using that in local government can channel transparency and really demand more of your representatives, but also demand more of how governments run and have more innovation and ideas generated in it.
Yeah, it can be. I would agree. It has a split personality, but I do think it's been a good thing for local governments to be able to get information out and to connect more to people. I know myself, when we've had issues with getting the live stream for our city council meeting, I've messaged the city directly, and they'll get right back to me saying, "Oh, we're having an issue or something." So usually, one time they didn't get right back, but generally, it's nice to be able to use that. And 10 years ago, that's probably not something that would have been available. So,
And I'll say this as well, Cassandra, since my background originally was in newspaper work, I think newspapers, generally speaking, the news sections can be some of the more reliable sources of information. They're not always right, they're not always accurate, but generally speaking, they're on target, and they tend to take a more objective, down-the-middle approach, I think, to issues. At least that's their goal anyway, and that's what reporters typically are trained to do. And so I'm an old-fashioned believer in the importance of newspapers, and I know in this day and age, there are so many other sources of information that people can go to that sometimes newspapers get lost in the shuffle a little bit. But I'm glad to hear subscriptions are picking up back again, like with newspapers like the Washington Post, the New York Times. Readership is coming back, and that's great, and that's terrific, because those are good, solid, reliable sources of information, among others.
There's something about sitting down on a Sunday morning with a cup of coffee and a newspaper.
Yes.
I think
an actual newspaper.
Or electronically, either or, yeah.
Bill, you might know this more than me, but I think the Washington Post, their new slogan is "Democracy dies in the dark."
Yes.
Okay. And I think that it just really hits it on the head. I think talking about this whole, broad-ranging discussion, getting involved and, demanding representation and everything, I think that it is really true. I think, when we get complacent, I think that's when we, kind of accept the status quo. And I think that everything should be challenged. I think perception should be challenged. I think stereotypes, the status quo should all be challenged. And I think that it's just important not to get complacent, I think, and kind of give into the status quo. And again, going into this innovation thing, we always need to try to channel it. And just because something's working doesn't mean that it can't be working better through a different way.
So speaking of different ways of getting our news, Bill, you have a new thing coming out, right? It's something you're going to be starting?
Yes, a new program on cable access called In Brown County, and it'll be about economic development and local government in Brown County. And that'll debut in June, and that'll be on government local cable access, and it'll be a rotating program from month to month.
Yeah,
So
that's really
that's
cool.
exciting, something new to get involved in.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Can I plug something too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think that's great, Bill. I definitely would want to know more information about that. But something I've been working on and talking with some elected officials, people in business and nonprofits. One thing that I kind of want to start, and it exists in some form in this area, but when I was a student at UW Green Bay, I was active in our student government, and I put on a lot of panels. And I think that community panels and events are just so key. And one thing that I want to do is a series called Candid Conversations. Is kind of a working title, but each month we'd meet at maybe a Kavarna or something, and we would get people from nonprofits, business, healthcare, education. We would have a leader come and, just kind of a casual conversation. We'd maybe have a Facebook page about it, but
Terrific.
we'd also maybe, I love to read, and a lot of, people in business government, they love to read too. So I kind of envision maybe whoever the guest would be saying, hey, let's read an excerpt from a book, or let's read this article, and then we'll come and meet and discuss it. And I think that's really important and really fosters the idea of, democracy does die in the dark, and we don't want that to happen. So,
Terrific. Good luck with that.
well, people can reach out to me if they're interested.
Yeah,
in that.
these are great. So I think the takeaway from all of this is everybody, no matter what community you are in, get involved. There are so many ways you can get involved, and that's how we combat all of this negativity. That's how we break away from it and stop being so divisive, and we just dig in our heels and we get involved in our local community. So
I know sometimes maybe every generation tends to think that we live in unprecedented times, but I do think we live in unprecedented times right now, so it's even more important to pay attention and to participate and be involved and to watch out.
yeah, I agree. Do you have any final thoughts? Either?
Be there, participate, vote, pay attention, get involved. Those would be my words of wisdom for the day.
I think my biggest thing is, like we talked about, putting your passion into practice. Just because, if something is really bothering you, you don't like, how something is done, you think that there's a need in the community, whether it be, a business that we don't have or a nonprofit that we don't have or something like that. You don't have to wait for someone else to start that. Maybe it sounds cliche, but some of the best innovation comes from people saying, hey, we need this need in this community, in this area. And, I encourage, if you're upset about something, if you don't like your representatives, if you don't like a way our community is going or the way business or something is going, go out and start it. Like, don't feel afraid to meet with other people and, share your passion and just brainstorm. It may be a dumb idea, but in reality, it might not be. It might come into fruition. So I would just encourage people to, if you have something burning in your heart, a desire or a passion, share it and reach out to other people. Let's make that dream a reality for the community.
So you guys were great. Thank you so much
Well,
for
thank you,
coming.
Cassandra. It's a great program.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. So that ends Political Radar Echo, Episode 5. For show notes, go to politicalradarecho.com/5. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell to get notifications. Make sure you check out Political Radar Pulse for more great political content. And if you'd like to support the show, you can like it on Facebook. You can join the Political Radar Echo community on Facebook as well, and we can all be nice to each other on there. And you can see Bill's articles. He posts all of them in there as well. You can also buy shirts and other merchandise at politicalradar.com/shop. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching Political Radar Echo. To ensure that you'll never miss an episode, subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. To check out more episodes of Political Radar Echo, visit politicalradarecho.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter.